Alright, hello there. This is a 600 sub special. What if Deku was betrayed and had the invisible reality quirk? Part 1. I hope you guys enjoy. So, Midoriya has just woken up and he had a nightmare. This nightmare was that everyone betrayed him. His mom, his idol, his classmates, everyone, even the teachers. And he didn't know how to feel about this, because the dream felt so real. But he just ignored it. He got out of bed, he walked down the stairs, and he looked and saw his mom in the kitchen talking to someone over the phone and saying, "So, are the plans in preparation?" And Nori's kind of confused, like, what plans? Is it remodeling the house, or maybe repainting? And he didn't really think too much of it. He just walked down the stairs. After his mom was finished on the phone, he went up to her, hugged her, gave her a kiss, after he had all of his clothes on for UA. And he walked out the door while waving to her, saying, "Bye. I'll be back later, Mom." And he walked out. Inko had a smile all the way until her son walked out. Then her smile dissipated, and she just had a scowl. Now, Midoriya has just walked out of his house, and he's going to UA. On his way going there, he has a feeling in his gut just not to go in. Everything in his senses are saying don't go to UA. But he doesn't know why. Is it related to that weird dream he had? No. There's no way anyone would betray him. He has the best friends ever. It's just some paranoia or some illusion. It's not going to come true. But as soon as he walks onto UA premises, all of a sudden he passes out. And he wakes up in a dark room. And he notices that his hands have been chained. And he's curious about what's happening exactly. What is this? Because he sees that he's been chained and restrained by the arms, by these chains that are on the wall. His legs are chained by a chain and ball, and he can't really look around too much in the room because it's completely pitch dark. And he's stuck there for hours on end, wondering what's happening. Did I get abducted by a villain? And he's on guard, and he's trying to use his quirk, but all of its quirk cancel. Can't use one for all. And all of a sudden, a little mouse is in the corner of the room watching him. And he says, "Midoriya, could you please resist trying to break out? And also, could you just admit to what you've done?" And Midoriya is confused. What has he exactly done? Yet, all he's done is get up, go to school, like any ordinary person. And he says this, and Nezu just says, "No, we know what you did. You're the UA traitor." And he says this in a disappointed tone of voice. And All Might, who also speaks up in the room, which Midoriya hadn't even seen All Might in the room because it was so dark, until the lights turn on. He turns on the lights, and he tells Midoriya, I'm going to take my quirk back. I'm going to need you to give it back to me. Considering I don't want the UA trader to have my quirk, and if you're working for All for One, you could hand him the quirk at any moment. And I prefer that not to happen. And Midoriya says, no, I'm not the UA trader. And before he could even say it, All Might kicks him in the gut, as hard as possible, saying, give me my quirk back. And then he starts viciously pounding on Midoriya's face, until he could hear the skull fracturing. And he kept on wailing on him for what seemed like hours, punching him in the chest, punching him in the face, kicking him in the legs, almost shattering them, smashing his head against the wall. And also, this made Midoriya break a little, because his own idol is doing something to him that is illegal, is villainous in his mind. Because if they were going to accuse him of this, then they shouldn't torture him. It's not right. And plus, how do they even know it's him or not? And after Midoriya is done with getting his beating from All Might just looks at him and says, why, young Midoriya? Why did you work for All for One? Why are you the UA trader? Why did you give him the information? And Midoriya just says, it wasn't me, and coughs up blood. And Nezu says, but we have footage. He brings out a little TV, and he places a disc inside. And he ends up turning it on, the TV, and it plays a recording of Midoriya inside of Nezu's office, scouring around, trying to find the file, messing up everything in the room, and looking through the cabinets. And once he finds this file, he just immediately starts taking pictures of it, places it back, and leaves, while reorganizing the whole office. And Midoriya is seeing this in shock and says, but there are villains that can change into other people. Are you sure it's not a transformation quirk? And Nezu says, no, it can't be. Because a transformation quirk would have worn off by now when you were searching. Because the room had quirk canceling inside the room. The very air in that room had quirk canceling. Whenever I leave, it's already filled with quirk canceling gas, invisible quirk canceling gas, which, if it was a transformation, would have died out once you would have entered the room, or you, more specifically. And Midoriya is just enraged, saying, it's not me. And are you sure that you had the gas on at that moment? And Nezu said, yes. And he looks at All Might and says, old friend, do what you have to do. And he leaves the room, and All Might leaves the room too, but comes back in an hour with all types of weapons of torture. He comes out with knives, whips, with electric blast brass knuckles. And once Nezu leaves the room completely, all you can hear is the entire room filling with Midoriya's screams and pain and anguish, being beaten with brass knuckles with so much electricity that would normally kill a person. But All Might's relentlessly punching him in the gut, in the face, and the legs, even in the crotch area, just so Midoriya begs for it all to stop and hands his quirk over willingly. And this continues for a few months. Midoriya has been beaten to a pulp on multiple occasions and just healed by Recovery Girl. And it happened over and over. There were whips that were used on him. There was times where Midnight herself would appear and whip him multiple times in the chest, in the back, in the face, until the skin was threatening to fly off. All of it was. It was barely hanging on. But they also got young Eri to come in and reverse the effect on him. And that's when All Might had the idea after a few more months. He went up to Eri and said, "Follow me, Eri. Do you want to become a hero? You could do something wonderful for the community." And he picked up Eri from the hospital. He went all the way to UA, went all the way to the basement, went all the way down the dark, dank basement. And he looked in this one specific iron-clad room. The door was completely made of titanium. He opened it slowly, and Eri saw a beaten and bruised Midoriya. And she was screaming in tears. And All Might said, "Don't scream. He's a villain. He stole the UA files and caused the USJ incident." And Eri looks at All Might in disgust and looks at Midoriya and runs up towards Midoriya trying to heal him with her reverse quirk. And All Might merely looks at her and says, "Are you a villain too?" And he runs up to her and kicks her in the face as hard as possible, making her fly across the room. And All Might has just snapped, because this young child, in his eyes, is going to villainy. And his morals and his sanity are kind of in question. Even to Nezu, who is currently watching the security camera, and some of the UA staff, they're watching this unfold. And Nezu's starting to think that maybe Midoriya might have been right, because they could have had a mask or something. Or it could have not been him. And everyone else was kind of agreeing with us. But what they've done already crossed the law with the boy. So if they release him now, and he spills what happened, the UA might get shut down for it, or they might have to face a lot of penalties for this. So they left him in there anyway, and let All Might do all of this anyway. And All Might's currently beating a child, known as Eri, to a pulp. And then Midoriya's watching this, is begging for him to stop. But no, he keeps on punching her in the face until her skull cracks. Until you could hear the bones crashing under the pressure of All Might's fist. And all of a sudden, he's wailing on her. You could literally see the puddles of blood under his fist. And Midoriya was already screaming, saying, "I'll give you the damn quirk. Just leave her alone. Just stop this madness." And all that happened was All Might got off of her, walked towards Midoriya, tore off one of the cuffs, and said, "Now give me the quirk, or I'll kill her and end your accomplice. Why did you brainwash such a child?" And Midoriya is looking at All Might in disgust. Delusional is what he's screaming in his mind. And he rips out a piece of his hair and says, "Here you go. Here's your disgusting quirk. Just leave her alone. Get someone to help her. Get Recovery Girl, anyone." And he gives him the one hair. And he eats the hair and gains his quirk back. And once he does, he walks over to Eri, and he steps on her head and crushes it like a grape, or like a pumpkin that has fallen from a high up area and smashed to the ground. And Midoriya is left in complete shock, in complete anger, hatred towards this man. He just gave up his quirk to save this young child known as Eri, the one he saved from overhaul in the past. And all that happened was that All Might killed her, and he's enraged, but all of a sudden, Midoriya feels some type of energy inside of him. But before he can use anything that he thinks might be an awakening of the quirk, because it's similar to how One For All felt. And he was about to use it, but all of a sudden, All Might literally ran up towards Midoriya, kicked him in the face, smashed his head against the wall, and made him go unconscious. And a few hours later, Midoriya wakes up in a box. Looks like a coffin from the inside. He's banging on it and trying to get out. But on the outside, All Might has the coffin in his hand, and he's walking towards the ocean of Daiga Beach. And all he does is he uses his One For All and throws it all the way into the ocean. And he lands into the ocean inside of his coffin. The water's pouring in, and he's wondering what he can do, trying to frantically get out. And he just says, "Why is reality so cruel to me? Why did it have to do this? The reality of things is those heroes aren't heroes. I don't think any of them are. If I get out of this, I'll kill them all," is what Midoriya screams out with the last of his breath before the water starts overtaking him. And then all of a sudden, he feels as if he was placed somewhere else. He is now in a supermarket, but he was just in a coffin. And he's coughing out tons of water. And Midoriya notices that in the supermarket, there's this one figure all the way in the front of the supermarket staring at him. And he's saying, "You gotta clean that up, dude. Also, why'd you use your quirk? It's against the law to use your quirk in public." And Midoriya says, "I don't have a quirk." And he said, No, you just teleported in here." Midoriya said, "No, I didn't." And the guy says, "No, you did." And Midoriya is thinking about it. He was in a coffin under some type of water, and now he's here. But he's thinking, what quirk is this if I awaken one under stress? And he's wondering this. And that's where I'm going to stop. What if Deku was betrayed and had the invisible reality?